StraightallDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself. It's going to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques under the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is where true security comes from. How can you be secure in yourself, secure in your life, secure about who you are, where you're at, and where you are going? Where does that true security come from? That's the question that we are going to answer in today's masterclass. So before I get into it, let me give you a couple of notes. First of all, you want to get my daily motivation text every day, guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. Just text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894, and every day when that message goes out, you will receive it. Secondly, my next live event, Work on Your Game Live, is taking place in Miami, February 3rd and 4th. We're going to be covering mindset, strategy, systems, and execution, amongst other things, over the course of 2 full days with me. You want to be at that event. If you're listening to this show, you want to be at that event. Get your ticket by going to workonyourgame.live. You'll see all the details and information about the event there as well. And third, if you're interested in being coached by me, I have one coaching program. It is at Work on Your Game University. The only way you can get into it is to schedule a call with me first. Here's what you do. Go to workonyourgame.net/apply, APPLY. You can pick a time on my calendar, then schedule a time to get on a call with me. There, we will talk about what we need to talk about. We're going to find out where you're at, where you're going, what you think your biggest challenges are. And if I can possibly help you, I will let you know that. If I can't help you, I'll tell you that as well. And if I can, I'll tell you how it would look, what it would look like, what you would get out of it, and how you can get started. Again, that's at workonyourgame.net/apply. The links to all of those, everything I just said, are all listed down below in the description. So getting into today's topic, where true security comes from. First of all, let's get a definition of the word security. It means the state of being free from danger or threats. How can you position yourself so that you don't feel like there are any dangers or threats around you internally? I mean, it doesn't mean anything couldn't randomly become one, but how do you get to this state of security? And similar to yesterday's episode, I don't have to give too much background on this one, because most of what I want to say about it is going to come from the points that I have laid out. So we're getting straight to it. Point number one. Topic, once again, is where true security comes from. First of all, understand that true security is similar to power, it is an internal job. It's an inside job, true security. This is not something that comes from the outside. Security is not an externality. It is an internality. Similar to power, it is not about you having a certain job. Job security is an oxymoron. There's no such thing. Security is not about what job you have. It's not about what you do for a living. It is not measured in a certain amount of material possession. All of those things can be taken away from you. Has any of you ever been fired from a job? Has any of you ever worked at a company that went out of business? Has any of you ever fired someone from a job? Has any of you ever known somebody who got fired from a job or worked at a company that went out of business? We all probably can say yes to at least one of those. So a job is not secure. So a job is not what makes you secure, no matter how much money you're making or how strong the company appears to be. No amount of material possession, because material possessions can be taken from you. No matter how much of them you have, you can lose them. So your security does not come from these tangible externalities. Your security comes from things that people cannot take away from you or ever hold over your head. Because a material possession or a job can be held over your head. In other words, someone can threaten your material possessions or your job in order to move you to do something that you don't want to do. But things that are internal, nobody can take those away from you, and no one can hold them hostage from you. The stuff that happens inside of you. All right, those are the things that create real security. Meaning, it's a way of thinking and a way of being. That's where security comes from. Similar to what we talked about in a previous episode on being powerful, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of carrying yourself, because these things are 100% at all times under your control, and no one can ever take control of them outside of yourself. So these things are happening between your ears. They cannot be confiscated, they cannot be stolen, they cannot be removed, they can't be taken away from you. So think about what we are saying when we say that somebody is, if you ever have described someone as insecure, or if you have ever felt insecure, what are you feeling in that moment? You are seeing everything around you as a danger or a threat to either your physical harm, physical self, or to your ego, your mindset, or to your emotions. That's what's going on when you're in a state of insecurity. Everything looks like a threat or something that is dangerous to you, to your physical self, or to your ego, mindset, or emotions. So being secure is the opposite of this. All right, because see, nothing is dangerous or a threat to a secure person. See, a person who is secure, they don't see anything as dangerous or a threat. Doesn't mean that anything could not become a danger or a threat. But even if that thing did, and that thing or whatever it is happened, a secure person is not living in a state of constant anxiety, fear, and worry about where danger could come from or where a threat could come from. See, this is the main difference between being secure and insecure. See, an insecure person is looking around and saying, well, anything could become dangerous or a threat or possibly harm me. So they're insecurely looking around, worrying where the next threat or danger or harm is coming from. Whereas a secure person, logically understanding that yes, anything could potentially become dangerous or harmful or a threat, at the same time is not living their lives in a constant state of fear and anxiety about what might happen or what someone else might do or say towards them. You might notice, if you listen to a lot of the conversation happening socially these days, that there are a lot of people talking about how certain words can be harmful and how certain words can be violent, or how certain things that people are doing can lead to possible hurtful actions and harmful actions coming from other people because they're influenced by what somebody says. So in other words, someone says, well, you can't say anything against this community because that may spark other people doing harmful, violent things towards those people because you said something that's influential. This is complete nonsense. It's some bullshit that's made up by people who are very insecure, based on the definition that I just gave you. I talked about this in episode number 2306. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. Words are not violence. Now, is it possible that someone could say something and then follow that up with violence? Absolutely it is. But can you live your life saying, or every time somebody says something that I don't like, or it bothers me emotionally or egotistically, that now I must assume that there's some violence, some physical violence that's going to immediately follow that up. Therefore, you have to live your life in a constant state of fear and anxiety. I would not suggest that you do that. I can't tell you not to do it. Actually, I can suggest that you don't do it. If you choose to do it, you can choose to do so. I mean, it's your life. You can live it however you wish. But I want you to understand that words are not violence. And this whole movement that's been going on lately about harmful speech or hate speech or hurtful words is all garbage. All right, the only thing that can actually hurt or harm you is actual hurt and harm, like actual physical, tangible violence. Now, somebody could say something that bothers you emotionally, mentally, spiritually, egotistically, but that's completely different from someone physically doing something to you. And either one, doesn't matter. Even if you are just as bothered by hurtful words as you are by hurtful actions, I want you to understand something, that if you are living your life in a constant state of fear and anxiety about what's the next hurtful thing or action that may come your way, then you are living in a state of constant insecurity. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad person, but it does mean you can do something about it. Like get yourself into a state of security, like we're talking about here today. So nothing that happens when you're in a secure state is dangerous or a threat to you. When you're a secure person, you're not looking at anything as, at least not anything that is benign, as dangerous or a threat. Now, if someone actually poses an actual threat, then yeah, you can look at that as a threat and then you can position yourself to defend yourself. But you're not walking around expecting it, you're not looking around anticipating it, and you're not trying to find it in places where it doesn't exist, which is what a lot of people are doing these days. Now again, being secure doesn't mean that you're gonna like or want everything that comes your way. There are gonna be some things that happen to you that you simply don't like, even when you are extremely secure. But you're not looking at them as a threat, which means you don't have to get defensive about them. And it's not to say that you will not defend yourself if necessary, verbally or physically, but it is to say that you don't feel threatened by the things that the average person feels threatened by, because most people are highly insecure. This is what makes a secure person secure, is that they're not threatened by the things that the average person is threatened by. Point number 2, today's topic once again is where security comes from. Number 2, knowing your game from the inside out. This is how you become a secure individual. You have to know what's going on and know every angle of anything that you're involved in. Now we're talking about, this is more of a tangible tool to make security attainable for anybody. So one of those tools is knowing what's going on, simply being informed, on point, and aware of what is happening. When you know where you are, when you know what you're doing, and you know what's going on in that space, you will feel a lot more secure than when you were or are completely clueless, lost, and unsure of what's happening around you. This is the value of being informed and being on point and being focused and being prepared for anything that you do. You have a much higher level of security simply because you already know what's going on and you can almost anticipate the action before it happens. We talked about this in episode 1925. Talked about it in multiple episodes, but this one specifically, the topic was do your homework. When you do your homework, that means you are prepared ahead of time for the situation that's going to take place. And don't you feel a lot more secure when you're prepared for something than when you're not prepared? Any of you ever given any type of public speech, whether it was a presentation at school, whether you were speaking at a group like a Toastmasters or something like that, or you've done any kind of professional speaking, or you've ever did a media appearance, or any of you ever run for any kind of governmental office and you had to go somewhere and speak in public? If you were prepared for that speaking opportunity, didn't you feel a lot more secure than the times that you went and you were not prepared? Of course, hopefully none of you know what it feels like to show up somewhere unprepared to speak publicly, but don't you feel a lot more secure when you know that you're prepared, when you know you've done your homework ahead of time? We talked about preparation on a lot of shows, a lot of episodes of this show. I talked about in episode 1355. The preparation is the separation. Episode number 1003, how to prepare yourself to play off of instinct. Episode number 567, if you are not over prepared, you are under prepared. Episode 561, things will not go as planned. Here's how to prepare mentally. Episode 429, the key to lost opportunity is showing up unprepared. Episode 426, preparation separates the pros from the amateurs. You might notice that subtitles also, that is very close to the subtitle of my book, The Third Day. Episode number 273, preparation and opportunity. We talk about the Hawk mentality. So as you can see, we talked about preparation a lot here on the show. I've written a book about preparation. That's my book, The Third Day, which you can get for free by going to thirddaybook.com. But one of the things that helps you be prepared is simply doing your homework. Knowing what's going to happen, at least to the best of your knowledge ahead of time, and getting ready for what you know. Getting ready for what the best of your knowledge has prepared you for, or clued you off to. Let's clue you into. It's a better way of putting it. When you're aware of what's going on, you know what to expect, and you won't be thrown off by what takes place because you've either seen it before or you could anticipate that you were going to see it. You see, awareness, folks, when used properly, is security. When you're aware and you use that awareness, you become secure because you see everything that's taking place around you. So even when something happens that you don't want to happen, you saw it before it even happened. You saw it before it took place. You could anticipate it. And when you can anticipate something happening, can we agree that it's much easier to deal with it, even if it's something that you don't want? Now, awareness, on the other hand, when used improperly, can become the exact opposite, being an insecurity. This is what I talked about. When I said someone who's very insecure is walking through life with nothing that is tangibly happening to them that is adverse, but they see adverse circumstances in everything that takes place, even the benign exchanges that they have in life. They see adversity in everything. They see fear and anxiety and stress in everything. And this is an insecure individual. Has any of you ever known somebody like this? I remember when I was in 5th grade, I had a teacher, his name was Mr. Bobak, and one day he was saying something to the class and he was kind of annoyed or frustrated with the class because probably us 5th graders weren't listening to him. He said something to the class, and at the same moment that he was talking to us, I was like not really paying attention to him. I was talking to one of my classmates, and I was looking at my classmate and I kind of mimicked my classmate, something that he had said back to my classmate, and Mr. Bobak, the teacher, saw me do it and he thought that I was mocking him, and he said, "Don't mock me." He made me like go stand outside or stand in the corner or whatever it is they made you do at that time. And I still remember this because I know that I wasn't mocking him. I wasn't trying to mock him. I was talking to one of my classmates. But because he was such an insecure individual, he saw anxiety and stress in even things that a bunch of fifth graders were doing, and his immediate reaction was to punish me for it because of his own insecurities. But this happens with people every single day, is that they go through life and they're looking for something to be insecure about, something to feel fearful about, something to feel worried or hurt or harmed about. And there are many people who are, again, there are many smart people, influential people who are trying to condition their followers to go through life like this. There are people who are trying to condition people to look for racism in everything they see. There are people who are looking for ways, they're trying to condition people to look for transgenderism or anti-LGBTism, if that's even a word, in everything they see. To look for anti-woman stuff in everything. There are so many groups these days. The Asians did it for a while. The LGBTQ did it for a while. Black people have been doing it for a long time. The transgender community is doing it. The Jewish community started doing it. And it's not everybody in these communities, by the way. So if you're a member of one of these communities, I'm a member of at least one of them. I am not saying myself, and I'm not saying you particularly, but you know that if you're a member of one of these groups, that there are many people who are influential with these groups who are trying to condition you to look for some reason to feel insecure about yourself because somehow, some way you're being attacked by somebody outside of your group who, for some reason, some often made up reason, sometimes a tangible reason, that somebody has a problem with your group and you should feel insecure about it. When you are aware, you can be very aware of all the possible dangers and threats around you. And you could either allow that to keep you in a state of constant fear and anxiety, or you can flip it on its head and you can allow that to put you in a state of extreme calmness, because instead of looking at it like, I know all these threats that could possibly attack me and hurt me and harm me, instead you could say, I know what all these things are around me, and anything that takes place, I'll be ready to deal with it. I know everything that could possibly happen. There's the exact same information, it's just different ways of looking at it. And this is all a choice. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is where security comes from. Number 3, having a clearly defined goal. When your goals are clearly defined, you will be a much more secure individual. One of the biggest challenges that I find, even when I'm dealing with entrepreneurs and professionals who have positive intentions of being successful, upping your level of performance, being more consistent in your performance, and producing a higher level of return on investment, all which we're going to be dealing with and covering at Work On Your Game Live. That'll be February 3rd and 4th in Miami. Get your ticket at workonyourgame.live. Even when I'm talking to professionals who have these positive intentions and are able to state them, one of the biggest challenges I've noticed is that their goals are much too vague. I deal with a lot of professionals who have very vague goals. They're not quite sure what exactly they want, but they know they want something. So they're taking a step in the right direction, that they know they want something that is different from what they have, but they're not quite sure what the something is. So they're unable to articulate what that something is. They're unable to get clear on what that something is. And here's the challenge with this. When you're unable to get clear on what you want, it's very hard to achieve it. It's pretty hard to get something if you don't know what it is. So having a clearly defined goal increases your level of security, because at least you know exactly where you're going. When you know exactly where you're going, it's much easier to navigate the map and the roads of life, metaphorically speaking. So have you ever been in a car driving or riding as a passenger, and the driver, whoever the driver was, didn't know where exactly you were trying to get to? They didn't have a specific destination. They didn't have a specific address as to where you were navigating to. So you're driving around and you're going somewhere, but you're not quite sure where you're going. You ever been in that position before? All right, how secure did you feel at that time? Probably not very secure, because you didn't know where you were going. When you're clear on exactly where you're going, it's very easy to be secure. It's very easy to be confident. And it's very easy to feel powerful. Why? Because you know where you're going, even if you're not there yet. Even if you're only 10% of the way there, as long as you know where you're going, it's much easier to be secure, because at least we know what the target is. One thing that makes a person secure is this: knowing what you're doing and where you're going. And when people know exactly where they're going, here are some things that come with it: higher level of focus, higher level of determination, and they're able to get other people to want to follow them, either follow them or get out of the way. One or the other. Why? Because the person knows where they're going. The person has no idea what they're doing or where they're going or what they're about. Obstacles pop up everywhere they go. The reason why this happens is because when you don't have a clear focus, anything is a possible distraction, because you don't know where you're going. See, when people come to me and they say, Dre, I need to work on being less distracted. Whenever somebody says that to me, I always correct them and tell them, well, your challenge is not avoiding distraction. Your challenge is finding focus. Because you don't avoid distraction. Anything is a possible distraction when you have no focus. See, right now, where I'm recording right now, there's a newsletter on my desk, there's stuff written on my whiteboard, there's a bunch of books behind me on the shelf, there's 2 phones in front of me, there's an iPad in front of me, there's a computer in front of me, there's a camera here in front of me, there's all kind of stuff happening outside of this door. All of those things are possible distractions to me, but none of them are distracting me right now. Why? Because I'm focused on talking to you. So you see, you don't eliminate distractions. A distraction only becomes a distraction when it is paid attention to. If you're ignoring the things that are possible distractions, they're not distractions. Distraction is relative. A distraction is a distraction as soon as you notice it, and as soon as you start ignoring it, it's no longer a distraction. You get it? Because you're so focused on your purpose, things don't distract you. Not that those things disappear, they just don't distract you because you're focused on your purpose. So the focus itself eliminates distractions, and it creates security by virtue of its very existence. Because knowing where you're going eliminates most of the anxieties and fears and problems that most people deal with on a day-to-day basis, having a clear focus. And we talked about focus a lot of times on this show. Let me give you a couple times. Episode 1193, one of my favorites, focus is the force multiplier. Episode number 1543, how to focus your greatness. Episode 1566, how to up your focus by having a short memory. Episode 1693, the best thing to focus on for the year coming up. I did that a couple years back. Go listen to that episode. Episode number 1754, mastering the paradox of success. That episode is a shortcut for purpose and focus. Episode 2010, identify problems but focus on solutions. Episode 2062, I gave you your number 1 focus for 2022. So if you didn't listen to that one, go listen to that one. Episode number 2210, when people say they're focusing on themselves, that is not a solution to a problem, by the way. Any of you have ever told yourself that. And episode number 2296, the rewards and tragedy of a lack of focus. If you haven't listened to that one, listen to that one. So as you can see, we talked about it a lot. Let's recap today's class, which is where true security comes from. Security defined as a state of being free from danger or threat. Number 1, security is internal. Similar to power, it is not about a job title or a material possession, because those can be taken. Security is things that cannot be confiscated, stolen, removed, or taken away. All right, you are not seeing things as a threat to your physical person, ego, mindset, or emotions. And it's not to say that you don't ever need to defend yourself or you won't ever want to, but you're not looking around and looking for and trying to find threats and things that are not threats to you. This is what makes a person secure. Number 2, knowing your game from the inside out. All right, this is a tangible thing. So knowing what's going on, being informed, being on point, and being aware. This is why we tend to get better at tasks and jobs the more we do them, simply because we're more aware of what's going on. We know better what to expect, and the more we see, the less we get thrown off by anything that happens, because we've seen it before. We have the awareness. And when awareness is used properly, it becomes security, but awareness used improperly can become insecurity. It's the exact same inputs, the exact same information is fed to your brain, but you're looking at it 2 different ways that can lead to security or a high level of insecurity. Number 3, having a clearly defined goal. One thing that makes a person secure is knowing what they're doing and where they are going. When people know exactly where they're going, they tend to be a lot more focused, determined. People want to follow them and or get out of their way. And this is the reason why when people have a clear focus, nothing is a distraction. Distractions are relative. The same things that can distract you when you're not focused are completely ignored when you are focused. So remember that distractions are relative. You don't eliminate distractions. You just stop paying attention to them, and all of a sudden they're not distractions anymore because you're not noticing them. So knowing where you're going eliminates most of the anxieties, fears, and problems that most people deal with on a day-to-day basis. Get clear on your focus and put structure around that focus to make it easy for you to execute on it. All that said, text me to get my daily motivation. My number is 305-384-6894. Go to workonyourgame.live, get your ticket to my next event, Work on Your Game Live, February 3rd and 4th in Miami. And go to workonyourgame.net, get access to my 45-minute training, 5 keys. The top level professionals are applying to their businesses on a day-to-day basis to separate them from everybody else in their industries. That training is completely free. At the end of it, the link will come up for you to schedule a time to talk about joining me in my coaching program at Work on Your Game University. Work on your game. Dre all day.